Hey everyone, I'm Doreen, one of the pastors here at Shady Grove, and I get to share with you our Wednesday Holy Devotional for Holy Week. This day is kind of difficult because Jesus is kind of out of the picture. The scripture doesn't tell us much about what he is doing on this day, but what it does tell us about is Judas. This is the day that he made the decision to betray Jesus. In Luke 22, verses 1 through 6, it says, "Now the festival of unleavened bread, called the Passover, was approaching. And the chief priests and the teachers of the law were looking for some way to get rid of Jesus, for they were afraid of the people." Verse 3, "Then Satan entered Judas, one of the 12, and Judas went to the chief priests and the officers of the temple guard and discussed with them how he might betray Jesus. They were delighted and agreed to give him money. He consented and watched for an opportunity to hand Jesus over to them when no crowd was present." Judas was one of the 12. He was chosen to be a disciple, and for 3 years he was with Jesus. He did ministry with Jesus. He learned from him. And I'm sure, like the other disciples, it was an exciting time. It was different than what they had ever known. They saw miracles. They learned from him. They had opportunities to do the same. And he was changing everything. Judas's name appears in the Bible 20 times. 9 times as a disciple, a follower of Christ, he was chosen, and 9 times as a traitor. This one event redefined who he was. In that moment, his weakness was clear. And if you notice in verse 3, it says, Satan entered him. And from then on, he was known as a traitor. Imagine being defined forever by the worst decision you've ever made. Before, he was chosen. He was entrusted to be a part of Jesus' inner circle. His betrayal was possible because of where he was in Jesus' group of followers. He was trusted. He was given responsibilities. He was loved. Betrayal can only happen if you've been entrusted with something. And the betrayal happens when that trust is broken. He had been a faithful follower, and look how quickly all of that was destroyed. It makes me think of John 10:10, where it says, "The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy." And that's exactly what happened to Judas. If you think about the Last Supper, in the moments when Jesus was explaining that one of them would betray them, all the disciples were on edge. Is it me? Is it me? And maybe you've been in a situation like that where you know someone is guilty. Is it me? Is it someone else? And the minute Jesus explained who it was, they were so relieved. And by acknowledging that it was Jesus, it kind of let them off the hook. We are somewhat the same. We think, well, I'm not going to be like Judas. I'm not going to do those things. I would never. But who's to say? Judas had been a follower for 3 years. I'm sure he was incredibly close with Jesus. But in that moment of weakness, Satan saw his weakness. He entered him, and that was it. He was now the traitor. And here's the truth. The tension that was Judas, being a trusted follower, and then becoming the traitor who betrays him is something that's true for each of us. We each have that tension in our life where we can follow Christ with all of our being and be devoted to him, but in an instant can set all that aside and betray him and betray the trust that he has given us. So I encourage you today to stay well grounded, to be in his word, to develop your relationship with Jesus so that when a weakness appears, Satan is not able to grab a hold of you and to change everything so that he cannot have a foothold in your life. One more thing about Judas that we cannot forget to mention. Judas sat at the table with Jesus and all the disciples. His feet were washed just like the other disciples because of Jesus' great love and grace that he gave him despite knowing he was going to betray him. And to me, that gives me such hope that even if I mess up, even if I betray all that I know and believe in, he will always be there with his grace and love waiting for me and forgiving me. That encourages me. I hope that encourages you today. I'm so thankful for his grace that he extends to each of us. A couple other things you don't want to forget. This weekend is just an exciting time to celebrate Christ's coming, his death, his resurrection, and the promise of salvation that he gives us. Tomorrow night is our Maundy, Thursday family communion time. It'll be in the sanctuary. It's a come and go type of thing, and we encourage you to come, bring your whole family for this special time to prepare your hearts before Good Friday. And of course, we have another weekly devotional on Friday. It'll have a little more worship to it. And of course, Sunday, we have our sunrise service at 7:30 in our multi-purpose room, which is in our main worship building. And then, of course, Sunday school at 9 and Easter worship at 10:30. You won't want to miss it. We hope to see you there.